Good afternoon from Las Vegas. It's February 16. Goodness gracious. I checked my calendar today and we're 47 days into the year, 12.8% through the year. That's insane. Whenever I start my day, I'd like to see, how many percent we are through the year. Just so I remind myself that time is passing. But that's okay. We got tea to slow down with. Today we'll be doing green tea. Like I said over the the IG stories, right now is kind of around the time where people are drinking down the green teas. Spring harvest is about to happen in a couple months, which means all the fresh green teas are about to come in. So I notice a lot of us are quickly kind of rushing through and seeing which green teas we want to drink down and get them down. And I'm a really, really bad example of this because I was rummaging through my tea stash today and I found some green teas from like 2015 and 2014, and it's really, really old, and goodness gracious. So today, let's talk about what to do with those old green teas. For the most part, we will be wanting to drink them down, but there are some green teas that are actually pretty good if you age them, and we'll talk about how to determine if your old green tea needs to be drunk down ASAP, or if it's okay for you to keep it and age it over time to see if it does better in a couple years. So yeah, we'll get started in just a little bit. Hello, me and Amy, TJ9, Ricardo Katafi, Nick from Slick Neville, nice to see you, and take your tea with you. How's it going? And Steven from Yin Ceramics, nice to see you guys. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is I would like to just drink a green tea that's extremely old, that I kind of know is not going to do as well. And we will compare it to a green tea that I actually think has done really well over age. And so we will take this green tea that I know for sure is not going to have done well over time, I think. Maybe I might be proven wrong. But this is from a company that no longer exists, my friend's company, and she, gave me a whole bunch of tea after the company closed. And it's been kept in this kind of like paper craft bag. And that's my fault. This is totally okay packaging if you're just, if you're responsible like me and you drink green tea within the right amount of time. But this is a 2014 Kenyan green tea that's been packed in a bag like this. So no matter how good the tea is, if it's not stored correctly, it's probably not going to be able to be aged. So I might be proven wrong. Let's see how this goes. I'm gonna brew this green tea and see if there's any life in it. Now, this might be a novel concept because a lot of people talk about green tea being like, you absolutely must drink green tea within the first year, or the tea police will come, or the sky will fall and it's not drinkable, it's poison. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but word on the street is that you must drink your green tea all the time, as soon as possible. And I think 90% of the time with the green teas that we have in the market, that's probably a good idea. But there is a small proportion of green tea that I believe actually ages exceptionally well. And that's only something I figured out because I was trying my tea. So first thing you need to do is just try some tea. I wouldn't have realized that green tea could have been so good if I hadn't tasted old green tea out of curiosity, so I might be surprised by this tea here. And inevitably, the color will change over time, of course, but color is not the only indicator of freshness with tea. It's natural for teas to turn color and still be okay and fresh tasting. Well, not fresh tasting, but totally okay to drink. It just depends. So again, this is a 2014, it's 6 years old, 2014 Kenyan green tea that's been stored in a paper craft bag. So, basically I'm brewing this because this is about as bad as it gets when it comes to storing green tea. If you do want to store green tea to age, you must keep it in a Ziploc foil container or a, clay canister. Basically any tea, if it's green, pu'er, white, or oolong, if you're trying to age a tea, you need to have a significant amount of quantity so that it kind of like can preserve its vitality If that makes sense? Like if you have just a tiny amount of tea, like if you have like a little packet like this, it's not very much tea. It's only a couple of grams in there. The tea will not have enough kind of like, it won't, you know, it just doesn't have enough of a shield against aging when it's just alone by itself. Like it's like a lonely island, you know? But if you have a huge amount of green tea, kind of like a decent bag like this, you'll have a better chance of getting a good result, because tea kind of develops this shield, like aroma shield by itself, which helps it stay intact and keep its character over time. And this is why they liked, you know, in China and other places that age tea on purpose, they keep tea in larger quantities so that it can protect itself from the elements. So that's one tip. If you only have a small amount of that green tea, it's probably best not to keep it. So just go ahead and drink it down. And then Nick from Slick Neville, I saw I ordered 600 to 700 grams of green tea, got impatient. What green tea did you order, Nick? I've heard a lot of people say, I can't believe you're ordering green tea before the spring harvest. And again, spring harvest in Tea World is happening pretty soon. I think that in China, it should be starting early March. And then China, then Taiwan does their oolong. So Taiwan doesn't produce green tea. And then later on, around May and June, Japan does its sencha and gyokuro and matcha. So spring harvest season is actually quite a bit of time, but I'm not sure if you've encountered this, you know, like people are like, oh, you can't order green tea right now, it's too late, it's gonna be too old. And I think a good, you know, a good rule of thumb is if someone says you absolutely cannot do this one thing, like definitely don't do this, or that's a really bad idea, you should never do that. When it comes to tea, there's probably something interesting you can explore there, because there's never any absolutes whatsoever with tea. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure, you know, Slick Neville, that you are going to enjoy that sencha, and it's going to be fine, and the world won't end. And if it does, let us know. So let's try this tea. This is a green tea. It's more like an orange tea now. This is 6 years old. I don't have a lot of hopes for this. Something you can look at when you're brewing your green tea is, especially if it's not a Japanese tea, if it's cloudy like this, and yeah, the cloudiness is not a good sign for an old green tea. And of course the color will change, but I think the cloudiness is a bigger indicator of whether or not something is going to taste okay over time. What I notice is that when a tea is cloudy, there's something wrong with the processing that caused the cloudiness to occur. And what that is excess water, I think. I mean, don't quote me on this, but from what I know about going to the farms and processing tea, when you have a tea that's cloudy, something is wrong with the processing. And when you want to age any tea whatsoever, green tea, white tea, oolong, really, really good tea will age better than okay tea. And that has to start with the processing. And this is why some people also say that green oolong needs to be drunk really quickly. Like Taiwanese oolong, they're really, really light. Like Tiguanyin and Alishan and Lishan. A lot of people say that you need to drink those quickly as well. But I think, and from what I've seen, why people say that about those teas is because a lot of those teas on the market aren't processed very well, just on average. You know, like if 50% is the average, 49% will be lower than average, and 49% will be higher than average, which is pretty insane. You know, like half the tea that you get on the market is below average. And so majority of the teas that you're getting, green tea and green oolong, are not processed perfectly. They're not processed amazingly. Not everyone can be amazing at processing tea. So it's become kind of like this defense mechanism that we say, make sure to drink green tea when it's fresh. Make sure to drink green oolong when it's fresh, because teas that are not perfectly processed actually deteriorate very quickly over time because of that processing issue. And what that is excess water in the tea. But that's just me. You can check it yourself. You know, a really, really good green tea, a really, really good green oolong will have been processed so well that it keeps up over time. And we'll drink one of those in a little bit. A green tea that actually does well because it's been processed really well. But let's try this one first. So my guess is that it's going to be bad. My guess is because it's been stored in a paper craft bag. It's a Kenyan tea, and you know, Kenya is known for its black tea. It's not a region that's known for green tea. So I'm guessing the skill level wasn't the ultimate best. You know, we're just trying to be objective here, right? So bad storage. It's really, really, really old. It's 6 years old. It's a green tea from a country that isn't a specialist in green tea. That's 3 points there to make a hypothesis that's not gonna be good. Oh, and it's cloudy. Okay, so number 4, it's cloudy. So processing is not that great. Notice that I'm not using color as an indicator here. You know, white teas turn different colors when they age. Even shangpoer and shoupoer turn different colors when they age. My indicator is a little bit different. All right, let's try it. Let's smell it first. It smells pretty decent. So from what I understand, this is a pan-roasted green tea. It's actually got quite a bit of aroma in it. I'm not sure if it's just taken on aromas over time being in a paper craft bag. Okay, it's not great, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. So this is, again, a 6-year-old green tea. And you know, here's the thing. The way that people talk about green tea and how you gotta drink it right now. Oh, it's gonna be horrible. I thought this was gonna be pretty bad. I selected the green tea from my stash that I thought would be the worst, just based on what it was. And it's honestly not that bad. Like, I could serve this at tea club or one of my events or a workshop and no one would really blink an eye. And why I say this is because it's still sweet. It's still got aroma. I don't like that it's sour and tart, and that's where the cloudiness is coming from. You know, try to see and look. A lot of the teas that are cloudy like this will have a tartness to them. But this green tea, even for being 6 years old, is really pretty okay. It's still got some aftertaste. It's still got some aroma. It's not offensive. I mean, I honestly think that I've had some worse green teas that are fresh than this. It's really not bad. Steven, will you have some? Yeah. So I'm gonna have Steven try some too, because I'm not just talking out my backside. It's pretty okay. And so, you know, I've been proven wrong by this tea, I think. While it's not the most optimal, I'm glad I didn't throw it out. I think that, you know, I've heard some friends, you know, like, oh, you know, I went through my teas and I cleaned them out and I just threw out all my old white and green tea. And I'm like, don't do it! Like, did you try them? Did you try them? If you tried them, and they were horrible, and then you threw them out, I think that's okay. You tried them. But when we're driven by floating advice, you know, or like common knowledge, like word in the street is, that's old green tea, throw it out, and you go without trying it first, I think that's a crime. That's a crime against the tea, that's a crime against all the effort it took to get the tea to you. So what if it's a little bit old? Try it first. I'm really happy I kept this. Yeah, and I'm, you know, now I'm just tempted to keep it even longer. Because even with, I mean, let me show you the inside of the container. I bet most of the green tea you all have, you know, because you buy it from really good companies. And, you know, especially the last few years, tea companies have been really upping their packaging game. Okay, this is the tea. It's a green tea. It's been stored inside this craft bag. Look at it! Look at it! It's the kind of packaging that you'd think would really like it's not even foil lined, it's just plastic lined, and the only thing that's keeping it sealed is this cardboard kind of container right here. And so, you know, what I can take away from this is that A, green tea is okay if you keep it, or B, the maker of this green tea is actually, you know, I gotta give them more credit for processing the tea better than I thought. It's not horribly cloudy. It's not great, but it's not the worst ever. And yeah, it's just, you know, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that it's this good. Really, really pleasant. Let's do another steep to see if the green tea will have kept up over time. Now, I never tried this tea when it was completely fresh, so I don't know what it could have been, to be fair. And I do like the taste of really fresh green tea. But the thing is, you know, instead of saying that old green tea is bad, if it tastes okay, then maybe it's just changed. This is something that we've seen change a lot over the last few years with white tea. So, you know, circa like 2014, 2013, 2012, when I was first starting to get into tea, like really seriously, white tea and green tea were kind of lumped together, and you're like, hey, you need to drink your white tea and your green tea the first year. Immediately. Fresh as possible, as soon as possible. And now, just over the last 3 years, you guys have seen this, we're doing aged white tea now, like white tea cakes, aged Chaumet, aged white peony, and that was just unheard of back then, at least here, like in the West. And so it's more of like a change of perspective. I'm sure that if you gave an aged white tea to someone in the past, they would have been like, hey, it tastes old, or the color's not good, the color's dark, is it really still white tea anymore? But things have changed, you know. Nick from Slick Nebel, any Gyokuro in today's lineup? Yes! How did you know? That's really creepy. I do have a Gyokuro today to try, because this is the only tea I have that has been deliberately aged by the maker, that we'll be drinking. I'll expedite it since you noticed that we were going to do it. How did you know? So, we'll be drinking a couple different green teas today to discuss the aging viability of different kinds of green teas. Because, you know, different kinds of green teas from I have my lineup here that I took for the picture on IG, on Instagram stories. Different green teas, they have different colors, they have different flavors, and what that is not just, you know, it's flavor, it's aroma differences, but it's also processing differences. And certain teas are going to age a little bit better because of their processing style than others. I actually think that sencha is pretty sensitive to degrading because it's steamed. Sencha is steamed, and that means it has a lot of water inside of it. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed yourselves that Japanese green teas, just on average, tend to kind of like, you know, go a little bit stale a little bit quicker, especially matcha. And I think that's because the processing style makes it a little bit higher in the water content. And when you have a higher water content, anything, you know, spices, tea, it's just going to be a little bit easier for it to go stale, okay? That's why dried spices, can keep a lot longer than fresh spices because the water has been taken out, and so it can kind of remain static over time. So this is a Japanese steamed green tea. This is from last year. It still tastes good, but I don't know. I'm going to keep it over time. This is what I have in this big container here. I think that it's going to keep pretty well just because it's pretty high quality, but on average, I find Japanese green teas degrade a little bit faster. And then Slick Nebel, the more broken down leaves, I also think mean they degrade faster. Yes, absolutely. Because of the, what can we call this? Let me pour this out. Oh my goodness. The tea is just screaming at me. Pour me out, Ree! The smaller the leaf size, just physically speaking, the more exposure to air that you have. You know, all these little tiny pieces are kind of like degrading a little bit faster because they're surrounded by more air. Whereas leaves like this is a dragonwell right here, it's kind of intact. There's less overall space for the air to kind of like interact. So yes, the size of the leaf will also play a lot into what's happening there. A lot of what makes tea stale is outside the humidity getting back into the tea leaves. And to be fair, I live in Las Vegas and our humidity is really, really low. So we actually don't play we're not playing a very dangerous game when we age green tea here. But especially if you're living in a humid environment, this kind of tea is going to degrade very quickly and you need to keep it in like an airtight container, I think, for it to have any chance of lasting a couple years, you know? And then pan-fried green tea tends to lose its color a little bit faster, but I find that it does a little bit better when you age it over time. So these are 2 pan-fried ones. And this is the green tea that we had just now. The 6-year-old Kenyan green tea that is actually pretty good. Let's try the second steep of it before we move on to the Japanese green tea. Any questions so far? Let me know. If there's a green tea that you're curious about that's been sitting around, you know, bring it up and we'll see, you know, if we can say something about whether or not it's going to be okay. So second steep of a 6-year-old aged Kenyan green tea. Really badly packaged and stored. That's my fault. I should have drunk it a lot sooner. I think it's okay. This second steep is bringing out a lot of that unpleasant, like, aged green tea stuff that I don't want. It's actually quite sour. So, I'd call it like 1 good steep and 1 decent okay-ish steep. I did steep it for a long time, but it's really not that bad. Maybe if I water it down, it won't taste so bad. I mean, it's not even bad. It's just a little sour. And it's just contrary to, you know, the whole like, oh my god, green tea that's been aged more than a year is going to kill your mom and kill your dad and kill your parents and kill your children. I'm exaggerating, but it's okay. It's drinkable. I mean, I almost think it tastes like a shang. Like a shang pu'er, you know? So shang pu'er or raw pu'er kind of has similarities with green tea in that it's processed a lot like a green tea to start. And then yeast develops on it over time to age it. And so shang pu'er is almost like kind of like next level green tea that's been aged. Don't quote me on that. It's just a generalization. But there are, you know, green tea and shang pu'er have a lot in common. And this here reminds me a lot of like a shang pu'er. You know, it's, if I think about it that way, it becomes a lot more enjoyable because shang tastes like this. It even has the same color as a shang pu'er, you know? So just changing a little bit of the way we think about what we can do with our green teas. And I was prepared to taste this tea and talk about what we can do with it, whether it's kombucha or cook with it or, you know, use it as a scent drawer. What would you say that? Like, you can set out green tea leaves, old green tea leaves in your cupboard to draw like humidity away from your other teas. But this is actually really good. I'm like pleasantly surprised by how good it is. And again, this is a tea that I identified in my stash as being the most likely to taste bad because it's so friggin' old. And I didn't have any experience with it being, you know, nothing told me that this would be this good. Good stuff. Wow, all right. So here's the green tea leaves, 6-year-old green tea leaves. It's older than a lot of y'all's kids. Wow, pretty good. And again, don't be afraid of the color. The color is okay. Like, I mean, it's a little bit frightening if you're expecting a bright green color from your green tea, but if you think about it, it looks a lot like a shang pu'er color. So yeah. And to clarify, I'm not saying all green tea will age well, but what I want you to do is if you do have an aged green tea, please, please, please at least brew it. Give it a chance, you know? You might find something interesting. All right. Good stuff. You guys want to do like gyokura? I'm going to go really, 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 really old. Really, 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 really old. Okay. It's my Japanese green tea container. Where'd it go? There we go. 2002 aged gyokura. Where'd it go? Look at this stuff. Okay, there it is. Alright, so we're going to do a 2002 aged Gyokuro. And so 2002 makes it so that it's... math. 2002 to... Today's 2020, it's 18 years old. So it's an 18-year-old Gyokuro. Yeah, it's legal now. If it was a person, it could go and vote. Which it should vote, because voting's important. Wait, no, they can't vote if they're in America, right? Can you vote? Yeah, you can. Yeah, we can vote at 18 in America. You can't drink, so you can vote, but it can't drink here in America. Yeah, so let's get to start. So this is from a vendor called Thé du Japon. Please help me with the French. It's T-H-E-S, Thés du Japon. And they are probably my favorite Japanese tea vendor probably ever, because they amaze me with the level of teaware that they have and the level of green tea that they have. I honestly was about to give up on Japanese green tea until maybe 2 years ago, when I started drinking tea from Thés du Japon and the Tea Crane from Instagram, these higher end Japanese tea companies. Because what happens in Japan is that a lot of it that we have here in America is actually pretty okay. It's just okay. It's a lot of like mass-produced stuff. There's not a lot of small family farm thing going on in Japan. Like a lot of us do get really, really good Taiwanese and Chinese teas, just because it's just a little bit more easy for even small farms to get stuff to America from places like Taiwan and China and India. But something about Japan, what we ultimately get is a lot of the larger scale stuff. Not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's larger scale stuff and stuff that hasn't been as vetted, you know. Why? It's another conversation. Japan's a doozy. But after getting to know, okay, Amy, you gotta help me here. Got it? But don't pronounce the final S in Thé. Thé du Japon. Is that better? Yeah, Thé du Japon. Okay, those guys. So they're amazing. The reason why they have a French name is because I think he's either French or Belgian, living in Tokyo, and he's amazing. His amazing curation. I really recommend them. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to get a chance to try this Gyokuro. Let's just brew it in a gaiwan, because no hiding there. No help from a kyusu, because we all know how good our kyusus can be at making tea taste really good. Let's do this. And so I brought this tea with me to Midwest Tea Fest to teach an aged tea class. So I did oolong, I did pu'er, I did white tea, I did the stuff that everyone expected. And at the very end, you know, I cheated because I knew no one was going after me. So I'm like, hey, you know, don't go yet. I'm gonna give you something really special here. And I gave them this tea. And everyone was like, what? What's going on? It's pretty good. So I love this tea. It shocks people. It shocks people how green it is, because you'd think that this tea, being 18 years old, has quite a bit of color to it already, but it's brilliant, bright green. Like a new Gyokuro. Isn't that crazy? It's just, I mean, when I first got it, you know, I opened it up and I'm like, hey, it's not, why is it so green? And I think what it is, so let's discuss this. If you kept your sencha by yourself at home without any like help, I don't think it would be this green. But from what I understand, the maker actually aged this vintage over time on purpose. And even if it's accidentally on purpose, I still count that, you know, because here's the thing, even if someone says they aged it on purpose, maybe they mindfully kept it and then they forgot about it. They weren't thinking like, hey, in 2020, I'm going to open this up and crack it open and it's going to be great. So basically they made sure it was, I believe it, you know, at least airtight, or the flow of air is correct, and the they did it on purpose. And so anything that you do in tea, whether it's aging, brewing, you know, taking care of your teaware, setting up your tea station, if you do it with intent and purpose, it's going to come out really well. And so that's why I think, you know, spoiler alert, I've had this tea before. This tea comes out so well because we're treating it like we would treat a shampooer or a white tea. We're not being like, oh, the green tea or just whatever. There's just, they actually put the effort into keeping it intact. So let's see. We will brew it with God knows what temperature water. I think a lot of people get kind of nervous but by my lackadaisical approach to temperature. You know, it's like temperature is a big deal, but when tea is really, really good, the temperature just doesn't matter. It doesn't not matter, but it can take it, you know. Yeah. So if you like thick syrupy gyokura, one of the ways I found that extracts a lot of that kind of like soft, kind of textural thing going on is to do a really soft pour. We discussed this in a live in the fall, that the way you pour into your tea will affect the way that it tastes. And yeah, just do it nice and gentle. And then look how bright green that color is. It doesn't look like it's aged at all. It's really shocking. I thought that the tea would have aged and could change color, but yeah. And Slick Neville, either way it's going to age better than the 20 to 30 grams I sometimes forget in my drawer. Yes, so that's a big deal. These producers are going to be aging the tea in like a significant amount. It's pretty magical when you go to the, you know, tea regions and you see these like stacks of like oolong and pu'er just kind of like sitting there. But what's happening there is that because they have this critical mass, you're able to age it more over time. I have asked a lot of people about what you need to age things well. Some people say just 100 grams is enough. Some people say that you need at least 5 kilos. Some people say that you need at least 20 kilos. I've gotten a lot of answers on this question. So, you know, just in general, the consensus is that you need to have at least a significant amount. You know, at least 20-30 grams that you have is a little bit better than 5 grams. So if you have like these little packets, little tiny packets, like, no, that's oolong, that should be okay. Like, this is gonna be horrible. Like, little tiny packets like this in green tea, it's only like a gram or 2 in each sachet. Even if it's sealed like this, it just doesn't have enough like vitality, I think. Yeah, and something like this. This is like 3 grams of matcha. The matcha is so spread thin inside that it's just dead, you know, like it doesn't have enough of itself to keep itself, if that makes sense. All right, let's get this show on the road. 2002 aged gyokura. Just, yeah, it's, wow, what were you doing 2002? I was being a kid. I think I was 9. I was born in 1993, so I was 9 years old when this tea was made. And that's pretty insane, I would say. This tea was 9 years old when it was all fresh in gyokuro. Well, it's still gyokuro now. It's just aged in gyokuro-i. Alright. Using Gaiwan, not even using a Kyusu to help it out. The car is so pretty! Wow. And this is the reaction I got when I poured it at Midwest Tea Fest, was like, are you sure that it's aged? And I'm like, I asked that of myself too. Did they like make a mistake when they packed my order? Not that they would, but I mean, like, come on, like, it just looks really good. Note how clear the liquor is, though. It's really clear. And that tells me that the processing was really good in it. You know, I mean, gyokuro tends to be pretty, like, on average cloudy, but for a gyokuro, this is pretty clear. Note that the material that you brew your tea in will, of course, taste a little bit, you know, it's going to make it cloudier, it's going to make a deeper color, but it looks really, really clean. And yeah, I need to ask Thé du Japon about it. Amy, check on me again with my French. But from what I understand and what I've seen other tea producers do, it's aging it on purpose in a large amounts, making sure it's not like exposed to the air too much, has allowed it to do this. Yeah, I'm not sure if they aged it in a clay canister, which is sometimes done with gyokuro to just rest it during the year, or if it's been sealed, vacuum sealed. I'm willing to guess it was probably vacuum sealed because it's so green. Yeah, it's a green tea. It smells really, really fresh, but really, really salty. So that was how this tea was marketed. It's very salty. It's how it developed over time. So less of the fresh, kind of like floral notes of gyokuro and really, really salty. That is really salty. Steven, try this. It's really salty. Oh my goodness. Really salty. It's like drinking water that you put salt in, basically. It's really salty, but in a good way. Yeah. What were you guys doing in 2002? Amy, you were an exchange student in 2002 in Japan. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. It's like Neville, forgotten gyokuro at the back of my drawer seems to degrade the soonest for me. Umami remains, but the liquor gets very yellow and loses balance. Just feels stale once it loses the fresher green notes. I wonder if you can let it sit a little bit longer, because I'm not saying it's always going to work, but this is something that I learned from friends in China when they age oolong. So oolong is kind of like in the middle, right? It's got the fresh green floral thing going on, and then it also has the, dark, roasty, toasty, nutty side. And when you have a tea that has both, it tastes really nice and fresh the first 1-2 years. 1.5 years maybe. And then it has this awkward stage, they call it. It's like a teenager. From like the first 1.5 years to like age 3, and so. It depends on where you are, because different areas will have different results in the storage and the aging of the tea. But basically, there could be an awkward stage for your tea where it doesn't taste as fresh as it used to, so it doesn't taste good, but it doesn't taste as developed and smooth and mature as it could be with a little bit more age on it. So it's just like half fresh and then half aged, and then it tastes stale. So I wonder, Nick, I'm not sure if it's gonna work, but I wonder if you let the gyokuro sit a little bit longer, if it could get out of that awkward stage and go and develop something into something new. I'm just wondering. It's a possibility, Astrolog Sergi Misharin, green. Yes, we're having green tea right here. Ken Convi Shangpuer goes through that weird period from 2 to 8 years or so. Ricardo, same thing. Same as the meh period of Shangpuer. We could call it the meh period. The awkward teenager period. Yeah. Nick, I'd have to be patient enough to wait another 1.5 to 2 years. Just hide it somewhere. Maybe you're more impatient than I am. Or you're more mindful than I am about what's in my stash. Because, yeah, I just have stuff that I just forgot about. Which is good, because then it taught me a lot about how green tea could be good. Because I forgot about it, but me being really curious about it, I'd brew it up, see if it's good, and then I'm like, wow, it's really good. But yeah, you can just forget it somewhere, maybe. I usually drink it to create space in my tea drawer. Yes, that's true. And if we do want to run that experiment, it would be better with a bigger amount, for sure. So I'm actually going to make sure to try to drink this down, because it's not very much. It's like it's still a Ziploc pouch. But I want to be able to drink it down a little bit sooner than it would be if it was just stored by itself, because now that it is kind of like been opened up and like dug into, I've taken it traveling with me. It's such an interesting tea. now I need to make sure to drink it down. I don't think I can age it the same way that the maker was able to do in Japan. Yeah, this is really tasty. Let's try this. Try it in another cup. Ooh, that's tasty too. Delicious. Using 2 cups here. This is Steven's cup. Little side note for teaware comparison. The tall, kind of like thin shape is really good for aroma. And just this material is helping this tea out so much. This wood-fired Taiwanese clay cup. But yeah, 18 years old or what? You know, like, I just love showing this tea off because it knocks people's socks off. And they're like, yeah, maybe green tea isn't that bad when it's aged. Now note that this is an exception rather than the rule, just like anything else in tea. I'm just really happy I got to try it. So thank you, Thé du Japon, for that. Really, really good stuff. I'm excited for you guys who are getting packages from them. Yeah, I wonder if you just do like a Thé du Japon order all together in the spring, because I just love them so much. Vendors are awesome, you guys. Like, I know vendors get a lot of like flack in the tea community when something's priced just a little bit too expensive or there's a little bit of information that's wrong. Give them some slack. I mean, they do a lot of work. It's really difficult to source tea, and yeah, it's awesome to get to try it. Okay, let's do another old tea. I'm gonna save this for later. Don't you worry, it's too expensive not to drink. Let's do a Chinese green tea this time, if that's okay with you guys. It's one I haven't tried yet. It's one that I haven't tried yet. Where did I put that little baggie? Oh, there it is. Okay. Let us try 2 different Chinese green teas, actually. One from a vendor that I have had amazing aged green tea from. Accidentally aged. Just me being like, forgetting about it, you know? And then we're gonna do one that I actually don't know. I haven't had a green tea from them that I've aged over time. A 2015 and a 2016. So what I'm sharing here is just my process for figuring out if something should be, you know, saved or not. So let's get this boiled again. And yeah, just to recap, if the green tea has been stored well, it has a better chance of doing well over time. If the green tea is high quality to begin with, so your cheap green tea from the grocery store probably won't be good over time to age. If the vendor or the producer on purpose aged the green tea, don't write them and be like, how could you? You're trying to trick us. They probably did it on purpose. And then tea that's been stored in a significant amount of space. I mean like a significant quantity. So if it's just 3 grams, probably not good. If it's like 10 kilos, even just a pound, it's gonna do a lot better. So like this one here is about 500 grams to start with. I've been drinking it down, but still, you know, pretty good amount of critical mass, basically. So we will try Chinese green tea before we get going. And wow, that's really interesting looking. Yeah, So this is a dragon well of some sort that I don't really recognize. That does not look like dragon well to me. Does it look like dragon well to you? That looks really odd. Huh, Steven? It doesn't look like dragon well to me. So, this is question mark dragon well. I have learned not to judge a tea by its appearances, because sometimes really crappy looking tea tastes really good, but I've never seen dragon well like this. At least not high quality dragon well. Typically high quality dragon well should look a little bit more like this, even smaller. So this is more typical dragon well here. Just use my hands. Right? I'd say that this is more typical dragon well. And then this is a dragon well that I fished out of that pouch. So we'll see. I'm gonna guess that because this tea has been stored with like in such a small space, it's just not very much of it. It's probably not going to be as good. Then we'll see. And then this other company, I'm opening it for the first time. It's from 2016. That's not a good feeling, but it's just the truth. I ordered this tea in 2016. It was not cheap, and then I'm not drinking it until now. It's insane. But I did this with another tea from the same company, a green tea that I should have drunk immediately because it was probably amazing. But I was like, let's just try it. And it was one of the most amazing green teas I've ever had. It was a 4-year-old Taiping Hokui. I have drunk that on stream before, and I was just amazed by how good it was. It tasted like nothing, but it felt like everything. So I was really impressed. That was another one of those eye-opening, oh my god, aged green tea is really good. And so with that green tea that I had tried, it tasted like nothing. It looked stale. It smelled stale. No aroma. But the texture and the feeling you got from that tea was so good. Like, it would have been heartbreaking if I threw it away. So it's just, all these things that I learn are just a series of tea epiphanies that I have when I'm just drinking tea and I get shocked by something and my mind changes, and that's why at this point I don't really know what's true or not, because nothing is really set in stone. That makes it more fun. Things that are for sure boring, I think. Okay. Damn, the Gyokuro is so good. So let's use boiling water for these green teas. So again, this is a 2016 Dragonwell, 2015 Dragonwell, and a 2016 Huangshan Maofeng. So kind of pretty famous Chinese green teas. One I think is a better quality one than the other. My guess is that the better quality one will be really good and I want to keep it, and the lower quality one I'm probably gonna want to like cold brew it or something. So let's check it out. These leaves have been waiting for me to brew them. I feel really bad. So that is one thing I'd like to say, is that if you are gonna age green tea, do it with purpose. Don't be like me and just forget about it. I mean, I'm just lucky the tea is good and it still tastes okay, but I don't like that feeling of like, I should have drunk this 3 years ago, or I should have drunk this 4 years ago. I spent money on it, I had it shipped, I paid for it, and I'm only drinking it not 4 years ago. I'm drinking it in the next decade. I waited until the next decade to drink this tea. Goodness. Where were you in 2016? That's another one. I graduated from college in 2015? Gosh, I had just finished college. That's crazy. God knows I didn't have a lot of money to be wasting then. But, yeah. These teas have been waiting a long time for me to drink them. This is a pretty nice color, actually. This has a really nice color here. This happened with the other tea that I had from this company. Very pale looking. It's almost not exciting. But we'll see if it still tastes good and feels good. So we're getting a little bit advanced here. Not just looking at the way the tea looks and tastes and smells, but also the way the tea feels. And I'm only saying that because, man, that aged green tea that I had from this same company that's no longer around, wow, it just felt so good. It's amazing. Really amazing. So hello to you folks who are just coming in while we wait for this green tea. We're just discussing aged green tea, what to do with it, how to tell if it's something you can age or not, you know? And all, you know, in a nutshell, you just gotta try it. You just gotta try it. If there's anything we take away from this, it's please do not just blindly throw away your teas based on the theory that they shouldn't be good anymore. Taste them. It's not gonna kill you. And if it kills you, I'm sorry, but it's not going to kill you. I promise. Wow. So we have had a 2014 Kenyan green tea. We had the 2002 aged Gyokuro, which is amazing. And then now we're doing a 2016 Huangshan Maofeng and a 2015 Dragonwell. And we're gonna try it. Oh, could you hand me the other cup so we have matching cups? Thanks. Matching cups. The Great Chadsby. That's a really good name, actually. How's it going? Alright. And then coming up this week, I know I mentioned this on the Discord server, we like to dive deep into topics and stuff. If you're on the Discord server, I flooded the Discord server with water discussions last week. And I think that, you know, we should just do that in a more structured way. So from here on out, I would like to try doing a tea theme every 2 weeks here on Instagram Live, on Instagram in general, on Discord, where we focus on a specific theme for 2 weeks, which will give us enough time to really dive deep into it. Because while it's fun to kind of like rotate different themes, like, hey, new thing every single week, there's so much to discuss for every single topic. And I think that 2 weeks will give us enough time to really explore and trade notes and get epiphanies. And if anyone wants to like catch up and be part of the conversation, that'll be enough time for them to receive anything they order during that time. So for the next 2 weeks, next 13 days, we'll be talking about aged green tea, how to determine whether or not it's good, what to use it for. So I'll be trying some, you know, not usually my thing to do, but I'll be trying to cook with some of these old green teas that I determine are not good. I'll be trying to cold brew as well. So just testing out everything in hopes of kind of like drinking down our green teas and seeing, you know, what we really want to keep and what we really want to drink down. So if you are so interested to join us, I hope you log into the Discord server to join us. I'll probably be hosting a challenge where I have people drink X amount of old green teas or determine X amount of green teas, what they want to do with them, just to kind of like push us to do something with them. Push me to do something with them, because God knows I only brought this up because of the live. I wouldn't have tried these teas unless I was really thinking about clearing out my stash. Okay. Here we go. So 2016 and 2015, Huangshan Maofeng is this one, Dragonwell or Longjing is this one. Colors, this is a very pale color, yellow. It's actually a pretty nice color for green tea. Typically the lighter the color of the green tea, if you're talking Chinese green tea, usually the better quality. I noticed the really high-end green teas from China are almost like water. They're really, really pale, really, really clear. And then the leaves are beautiful. So I'm really hoping they still have some life in them. I feel really bad for not drinking them sooner. The second one looks more attractive in theory because the color is very like nice and bright. But the leaves are kind of janky looking. But okay, we can still try it. Let's try the older one first. 2015 Dragonwell. It tastes like nothing. It tastes like nothing. It also feels like nothing. It's a nice texture. It's kind of like really good water. Yeah, this is, I think we struck out with this one. So this is the first tea we've tried today that's aged, that just doesn't have any pizzazz to it. It's just okay. And it was brewed for a very long time. I'm looking at Steven's expressions here. It tastes like nothing, right? Yeah. Tastes like nothing, feels like nothing. It smells like Dragonwell. But okay, so this is the kind of green tea that now we gotta figure out what to do with it, because it's just not, life's too short to drink bad tea, right? And this is just not very exciting on its own. So, like Ken was saying, you can make Jun or kombucha out of this. You could cook with it. You could make a Japanese, like, you know, tea-soaked rice dish. So I'm probably going to use this tea over the next 2 weeks, try to figure out what to do with it. It's too weak, I think, to cold brew. Cold brew usually does well with Japanese green teas that have gone stale because cold brewing does well with the kind of like tiny leaf size. You know, you can extract a little bit of sweetness out of them. But this is just way too tasteless. I bet to get anything out of them, I might have to like grind them and use them in like a rub or something. There's just nothing. Steven, anything? Aftertaste? Nothing? Yeah, this is dead. It's just, yeah. This is the green tea that the people on the streets were warning you about. Like, don't do that. That's just bad. And that's my fault. I should have drunk it sooner. There's a little bit of taste, you know, but I boiled it. I let it sit for a long time. It's just sad. So, moment of silence for that tea. So that's a 2015 Dragonwell. For those of you who just came in, just because it's old doesn't mean it's not going to taste like anything. We tried a 2014 Kenyan green tea that tasted great. I'm shocked that the Kenyan green tea did better than the Chinese green tea over time. How is that possible? What happened? Good job, Kenya. You know, like a lot of the other tea regions don't get a lot of love because, you know, we assume the skill's not as good. But in this case, I think the Kenyan green tea maker did better than the Dragonwell maker for this particular Dragonwell. And like we guessed, you know, it's not a very good Dragonwell, just quality-wise. I'm sure it tasted amazing when it was fresh, but typically the issues with processing come out more over time. A poorly processed tea can taste good in the beginning because it's fresh, you know, but over time it's going to lose some of that pizzazz and easily go stale. Let's try the 2016 Huangshan Maofeng. I'm really hoping this still tastes good. It smells like nothing. It's this tea here. Pale. Higher quality, I think. We're keeping this one. Wow. Wow. I'm sorry, Steven. This is spoiler alert right there. Isn't that really tasty?
It's pretty good.
Wow, that's really good. So, I'd mentioned before that we had a green tea from this company, which no longer exists. A really high-end green tea that tasted like nothing, but felt like everything. I'm so excited to say that this is the same way. I had one sip of it, and I could walk away and be done with the tea session, because this tea is so... It feels good. This is a tea that you drink. I mean, it tastes pretty good, right? It's sweet, but it feels amazing. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just... wow. How do you explain that? Why does this tea taste like nothing, but feels like nothing? This tea also tastes like not very much. It's got a little bit of taste, but it feels so relaxing and so good. Now, this is a semi-wild tea. You guys who have, you know, dabbled with wild teas might know that there's something a little bit, you know, spicy about those wild teas. They can get, if you know, if you believe in that kind of stuff. They're very tea drunk, you know. They can make people a little bit loopy or be really relaxing, or I like Floating Leaves' take on it, meditation grade. They almost called their higher end like really energetic teas. I'll just call it energetic teas. And this is a tea that if you weren't paying attention, if I wasn't paying attention, I'm not saying you guys, okay, if I wasn't paying attention, I would have noticed how like sublime this tea is. I mean, it's just really good. Wow. See, like, I would rank that on the same level as a lot of the really brilliant dansong, like Phoenix Oolongs, you know, that I've had. It's just so relaxing. So yeah, this is a little bit more difficult to communicate, but some teas just make you feel really good, and some teas don't make you feel good. This doesn't make me feel good. This makes me feel amazing. So while I probably wouldn't brew this tea in like a big group setting because it doesn't taste like much, it's not very expressive, it's not very flavorful, it's not very punchy, this just feels really, really, really good to drink. And yeah, I mean, you know me, I go a million miles an hour, but I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy this tea. And that's a powerful tea that can get me a little bit more relaxed, because I'm usually like rattly. Okay, see, I didn't even notice the timer was going off on this. Timer's going off. Thank you for joining us. Over the next couple of days, we'll be doing more green tea stuff. See you on the other side.